the Future Minerals Forum is more than an event. It has become somewhat of a concept. And our strategy, our vision, we have articulated our vision of shaping the future of minerals, but we base our strategy on 5 pillars.
Welcome to Revolución Circular, the Circular Revolution, the #1 podcast on circular economy and the 4th Industrial Revolution. I'm Petar Ostojic, and as you can see, we are really excited to launch our first episode in English. And we couldn't have a better start than by welcoming a world-class guest joining us directly from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Mr. Aldo Panini, Director of Strategy, Program, and Content of the Future Minerals Forum. Aldo, welcome to Revolución Circular, the Circular Revolution.
Well, Petar, it's an absolute pleasure to join you today. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to your audiences. This is a wonderful opportunity to be able to talk about something quite exciting that's happening here in Saudi Arabia that has implications for our immediate region, but also globally. So engaging with an Hispanic or Spanish-speaking audience is of particular interest to us in Latin America more broadly. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, Aldo. I had the privilege of attending the Future Minerals Forum 2024 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where I personally witnessed the excitement and profound interest in the crucial roles of mining, innovation, and sustainability for Saudi Arabia, the super region, a concept that we will discuss later on, and the entire world, as you mentioned. And in order to provide a context for our listeners, for our viewers in Latin America and all the parts in the world, I would like to ask you if you can provide us an overview of the Future Minerals Forum and which are its primary objectives.
Yes, so thank you very much, Petar. So your audiences are probably wondering why I'm here in Saudi Arabia talking to you about a Future Minerals Forum. Saudi Arabia has been historically associated with oil. So why a conversation now about minerals? The story starts with the Saudi Vision 2030, which is the kingdom's national strategy. And as part of that, we developed this forum for 2 basic reasons. One was to raise awareness of the transformation taking place in the kingdom, particularly its economic transformation and the diversification, the creation of new industrial pillars, of which mining is one. 2, to attract investment, private sector investment, particularly to Saudi Arabia and the mineral value chain. That was 3 or 4 years ago. So we're now into our 4th year of the Future Minerals Forum. What's happened since then is the scope and the scale of the platform or the event or the conversation has grown dramatically, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But what that's meant in terms of our ambition and objectives is we're very ambitious. So the overall vision of the Future Minerals Forum is to shape the future of minerals globally. We believe minerals are vital for life, vital for the future economy, vital for development, and obviously the energy transition as we try to tackle climate change. So shaping the future of minerals is one key piece. In order to shape the future of minerals, we need to attract investment to new or existing supplier countries. And what's interesting about that is now we're now talking about Saudi Arabia as potentially being one of those, no, not potentially, but actually being one of those supplier countries. We're also talking about the super region that we'll come back to. So the other objective is really to bring together all stakeholders. At a time when the world is racing to secure these minerals, the view taken from here is we need to convene. And Saudi Arabia is playing an important role in bringing governments, industry, and investors together. There has been a gap in the market, I should say, in terms of this conversation in this part of the world. We are filling that gap, and in doing so, we're also taking the conversation to other parts of the world as well. So it's quite a big ambition.
Absolutely, and you are absolutely right that critical minerals are the foundation of a sustainable future. I want to rewind a little bit in terms of the global perspective. And how is the global demand for minerals and metals expected to grow in the coming years? And what factors are driving this increase from the perspective of the Future Minerals Forum?
So the demand for minerals, there are various estimates for how much will be needed in order to meet the energy transition objectives as part of the, meeting the goals set out in the Paris Agreement a number of years back. But the numbers are huge. Some estimates calculate 1,500% increases, 1,500% increases in demand for certain critical minerals. They include copper, cobalt, nickel, lithium. So we're talking about something on a scale that has not been delivered before. So we're in this very interesting point in history where governments, industry, and others need to figure out how do we deliver those minerals and metals in the quantities required, in the time required. So we're almost in uncharted waters. And this is why working together is so important to try and get there. What's driving some of these demand increases? Obviously, the move to electrification of the whole, global economy. Also, the advent of new technologies, which are on the one hand enablers of, say, the energy transition, but also significant consumers of energy in themselves. So when we're talking about AI, for example, big data centers, that all needs power and increasingly renewable energy as we transition. So all that needs minerals. So we're talking here a new paradigms, really. And also there's another piece here, which is leveraging minerals for development, right? And countries, particularly supply countries, new or existing, looking at minerals maybe afresh in some cases as an opportunity to diversify economies and grow and create jobs and so forth. So there are multiple factors here, and as I said earlier, we're in this very interesting point in history, and the fundamental piece here, we need to work together to achieve these, to meet the demand, and that's another vexed question when you think about geopolitics and all the other factors at play here. But the Future Minerals Forum in particular, and I'd like to underline this, two things. One is that we seek to convene all players. And we are also a government-led initiative, and we're very clear about that. And the reason is that governments lead, set the rules, but also have challenges to overcome. And this is where having governments engaging directly with industry and other stakeholders is so important. And we know that industry also seeks to do that. So we hope that the Future Minerals Forum can play a part, at least in the part of the world that we're involved in, and hopefully in time with Latin America and South America as well, that we can generate that dialogue and deliver some concrete action in order to enable the creation of these value chains.
And I wanted to ask you, why is securing a supply of critical minerals so crucial for nations and communities? Now that you were speaking about electrifications, geopolitics, there are so many threats and opportunities we need to face.
Yeah, so there's the I guess the demand pull, which is the energy transition and tackling climate change. But also, as I was saying earlier, leveraging the minerals for national development, and rethinking the use of minerals and the role of minerals in society. I mean, historically, it's not been a particularly great story in some ways in terms of the impact minerals have had in some communities and some parts of the world, and Latin America and South America in particular is very familiar with this. But on the other hand, minerals have been the enablers of the Industrial Revolution. They've been the enablers of all really human development in the last in the last 200 years. Without these minerals, that would not have been possible and will not be possible going forward as well. So we're in this era where we really need to rethink this issue of minerals, and in particular, the contribution minerals can make to societies, to countries, to local communities. And as you'd be familiar in terms of Chile being such an experienced mining jurisdiction, that nowadays minerals are a high-tech industry. They are a safer, cleaner industry than perhaps they've ever been, particularly among the major players in the sector. And so there's been a huge improvement in performance, particularly around sustainability, environmental, social issues, as far as the industry is concerned. And so as countries look at the mineral wealth to develop, then looking at what benefits mining brings in terms of the technologies, the jobs, and the ecosystems that go along with that, infrastructure, new technologies, social infrastructure as well, schools and so forth, the revenues that generates. So mineral development, mining, that includes mining, obviously, processing and so forth, needs to be rethought and looked at more from an enabler perspective. How can minerals help countries achieve their objectives, as opposed to in some quarters perhaps being seen as more of a hindrance more than anything else. So what the Future Minerals Forum is interestingly doing is generating a new dynamic. And you were there. The discussions are very positive. There's a great energy about. There's many generations involved in the conversation. We have young people coming in big numbers, and so I think that augurs well for the industry as a whole. But we're only one of a number of conversations. We need to grow this interest in minerals and take it forward.
SQM lleva más de 50 años innovando y desarrollando soluciones esenciales que son usadas como insumos en las industrias de la salud, alimentación, tecnología y las energías limpias que mueven al mundo, aportando a la sostenibilidad. SQM Nitratos Yodo, soluciones para el desarrollo humano.
Aldo, during the FMF 2024, and we've been mentioning this earlier, we came across this concept of the super region. I was really interested and surprised about this, and I wanted you to explain what the super region is and its significance for the mining and processing industries. What do you mean by the super region?
We have a group of countries in this part of the world that covers the whole of Africa, Western Asia, i.e. the Middle East, and all of Central Asia, which have enormous endowments of minerals and are geographically, depending on how you look at the planet, geographically centered between the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere, and also cuts across southern and northern hemispheres. So there's a significant, very diverse group of countries that are thinking, how can we work better together and link up to produce the minerals and the metals that the world needs. They are geographically close, reasonably close to key markets, whether it be Europe or Eastern Asia. And also as you have Saudi Arabia coming through smack bang in the middle of that, as a sort of draw card for these regions. So you have the Central Asian republics, and you have much of Africa engage in the Future Minerals Forum. And if you think about the mineral potential, some of the numbers are staggering. Sort of almost 90% of global platinum is found in the region, more than 80% of phosphate, almost 70% of bauxite, 60-odd% of manganese, almost 60% of cobalt, and other key minerals, copper. You have the copper belt in that sort of central southern African region. So the mineral potential is enormous. And so as we convene the Future Minerals Forum and we bring these countries together, what stood out for us is there's 79, 80 countries of a particular part of the world, and better way to describe them as some sort of a super region, as it comes together, integrates to develop these value chains, supply corridors, and so forth. We and also from the perspective, Petar, of projecting, highlighting increasing the visibility of this part of the world as far as mining and minerals is concerned. Yes, everyone's heard of Latin America, North America, Australia, and so forth, Africa to a large degree, but the rest may not be easily associated with minerals. And the other aspect is, as we sort of try and illustrate this super region, is to provide a voice for this super region in international fora. And we'll come to that in terms of mineral value chain creation, sustainability expectations and standard setting, the creation of centers of excellence to build capacity. So there are all these sort of areas of work that we're developing, and we'll go into in more detail, that aims to weave the region together. But importantly, this is not just about the super region. Super region is one aspect, but we're seeking to go beyond that geographic area. And this is where Latin America and other supply regions are so important, because we're all interlinked. And so when we're talking about mineral value chains and supply chains, they're cross-continental. We want to ensure that these are developed in a resilient way, that there's diversity of supply, and in a responsible way. And that requires collective action. So we see this super region as somewhat of an emerging hub for the rest of the world to engage with.
Aldo, from the perspective of the Future Minerals Forum, why is Saudi Arabia positioned as an ideal hub for the mineral value chain, and what advantages does it offer for new investment, new companies, and new entrepreneurs?
Well, I mean, first of all, Saudi Arabia is in an extraordinary geographic position. It's central between north and south, east and west. So from a geographic perspective, it's an excellent location. It's a G20 country with high rates of growth. The geography places us close to key markets, Europe, Asia. It has its own significant mineral endowment, which is still being studied. It has capital. One of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world is the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. A market of high earning power, spending power of about almost 40 million people. A very young, well-educated population. Almost 65% of the Saudi population is under 30. So you have this cohort of talent coming through. Also, abundant supply of energy, fossil fuels or oil historically, but you're seeing more over time in renewable energy, solar, wind, and also in the hydrogen space. It has world-class infrastructure, whether it be road, rail, port, and so forth. And importantly, it has good relationships with most of the world. So that combined positions it as a reliable, attractive proposition for investing in. And what's also important here, Petar, is that there's a plan, and it's called the Vision 2030 that I mentioned earlier. And when we talk about how things come together in vision and strategy, the Vision 2030 provides sort of the guardrails or the steer for all of this work. And what's interesting, having been involved with the Future Minerals Forum for the past, since its inception, is how it itself has emerged as a bit of a microcosm of this Vision 2030. The event brings together a very broad range of people to Saudi Arabia, and most attendees, and I'm sure you agree, are quite surprised by what they find when they come to the kingdom. So perceptions are sort of blown away. And that's reflective of the changes that have been going on in the country for the past 5 or so years. So the Future Minerals Forum is a convener. It's also focused on investment, so driving these new industries. It's focused on new technologies and the application of new technologies. So how can a country like Saudi Arabia, who's reasonably new in the mineral space, almost leapfrog, learn from the experiences of others, and really position itself as at the leading edge of mineral production and metals processing, for example. So then there's the whole sustainability piece. There's a very strong commitment to sustainability. So all the elements of this vision come to life in the Future Minerals Forum. And I have to give credit to our minister, Bandar Khorayev, who coined that phrase, a microcosm of Vision 2030. That's how he sees this Future Minerals Forum. And so the role of Saudi Arabia as a enabler of not just its own development, further development, but for the broader region and globally, is becoming evident. So when you look at the role of Saudi Arabia in securing supply of minerals, it obviously has its own, but it needs to bring in more in order to meet its own demands. There's a pull taking place from this super region, but also other parts of the world, and Latin America, South America in particular, will play a big role in that. So it's almost a catalyst for value chain creation, and also in time emerging as an additional hub for processing.
I wanted you to elaborate on the key aspects of Saudi Arabia's new mining law and discuss its anticipated impact on the mining sector from an FMF perspective. Because as you said at the beginning, Aldo, not too many people think in mining when they think about Saudi Arabia. So what's going on there? The numbers are also really, really impressive. But what's going on with this new mining law for Saudi Arabia?
Well, the maybe just to preface the answer, historically, you're aware that Saudi Arabia has developed a diversified, world-leading petrochemicals sector based on its oil resource. Now, the kingdom is very much looking at their mineral endowment. And what's interesting about that is that in the last few years, as sort of the resource has been sort of calculated. It was announced this last January, and you may have heard this, that the kingdom's mineral resource base is now estimated to be worth $2.5 trillion. That's up from $1.3 trillion a couple of years back. So it is endowed with mineral wealth, and there's approximately 42 minerals can be found in the kingdom. One of the world's largest geological surveys is underway. 600,000 to 700,000 square kilometers is being surveyed at the moment. I think that we're halfway through that 6-year program. Saudi Arabia also has significant deposits in producing a lot of iron ore, aluminium, copper, and so forth. So this mining law, a new mining law, was implemented in 2021. And it's really at the cutting edge. The kingdom has been very clear in looking at what best looks like around the world, from other mining jurisdictions, regulatory regimes, and sustainability is a key part of a key plank of its mining law. So they've looked at the principles of the International Council of Mining and Metals, and other international sort of expectations and standards organizations to ensure that sustainability is delivered at a high standard. And so that's at the heart. Sustainability is, if I could use this phrase, is at the heart of the Saudi mining law, and that then feeds into all the conversations we're having. So as Saudi Arabia emerges as a minerals hub, that their expectations of performance around sustainability will be in line with that law, and so that sends a signal, to others. So the other thing about the mining law, it aims to simplify permitting, as well as provide a whole series of incentives. So just to give you some examples, they offer co-funding of 75% of the value of investments. They provide 5-year royalty holidays for miners, and a discount of about 90% in royalties for the sale and local downstream sales and to local downstream customers. So there's significant incentives there to come and explore, develop mines, and also processing facilities. So all the elements are in place. The law is now into its third, fourth year, and the results are coming through. The exploration licensing rounds are successful. You would have seen at the Future Minerals Forum the announcements of I think it was around $20 billion worth of agreements and investment opportunities. So there's a big momentum being generated by the kingdom, which sits nicely with the Future Minerals Forum because it just builds this sense of movement towards mineral development. And as I said earlier, the kingdom being somewhat of a catalyst for broader region and other regions to be part of the supply story.
That's another key aspect that you can see. I'm thinking in our Latin American people that can go and visit the forum to see how the mining of the future is thinking about permitting, because that's a huge issue here in Latin America, in Chile, Peru, Argentina, Mexico, and Colombia especially, to see how other regions are facing this issue. What are the incentives? Everything under the umbrella of the importance of the crucial minerals for our future. It's so important to learn from other experiences, and I think the Future Mineral Forum definitely gives you a great opportunity to learn what an important country as Saudi Arabia is doing in terms of permitting, especially.
So I was just saying that in terms of licensing, the kingdom has implemented a fully digitized process for applications, and they're in the midst of I think it's maybe the fourth round, if I'm not mistaken, of new licensing. The latest I think covers 4,000 square kilometers. So the digital is playing a big role, digital technology, in how the kingdom is. In the kingdom's transformation, I should say, more broadly. But if you look at the mineral sector, just to give you two examples, one was this licensing application, all digitized. There are set deadlines for approvals, and as the law becomes implemented and consolidated, that is speeding up. But also the geological surveying. The kingdom is going from a situation of one, having data of historic data inaccessible largely to non-government entities, to being fully transparent. So the geological survey that's underway is, again, fully digitized. There's a platform you can go into and look for all the information that you need with regards to the kingdom's mineral endowments. So the changes there are dramatic, which in turn enhances investor interest. They seek information, ease of doing business, and as you see, with these processes being put in place, hopefully they will start to generate more investment on the ground, which is what's happening.
Absolutely, Aldo. What does the Future Minerals Forum's multi-stakeholder, a word that we've been listening and hearing all over the place, approach entail, and why is it essential for building trust and finding solutions? What's your perspective on that?
Well, we've been talking a lot about the opportunities that the mineral sector presents for regions and for the world. But we also talked about the historic nature of the minerals discussion. So the challenges are huge. The scale is unprecedented. And when you're talking about an industry or industries within an industry that are so complex, and where development of mining takes years, if not decades in some cases, the challenges around sustainability are so significant, notwithstanding the progress that's been made, that and the fact that some of these challenges and supply chains are global in nature, that our view is quite simple. It's only by working together that we can overcome these challenges and find lasting solutions, right? And bringing government, investors, the industry itself, civil society, as much as possible, into the conversation to be part of crafting solutions. And we'll talk about this as well. One of the key objectives of the Future Minerals Forum is this notion of, yes, it's good to bring thought leaders together to discuss the key issues, but it's also equally important to turn that discussion into action. And so that's the phase we're in at the moment with the Future Minerals Forum. So this multi-stakeholder approach simply aims to bring people together to solve big challenges, right? And evidence suggests that the chances of success are greater when you take a multi-stakeholder approach than not doing so. A single country or a single organization cannot fix the problems or the challenges that are both the challenges and the opportunities that this new mineral age is presenting. The other thing I wanted to, so in line with that, so how are we turning this talk to action? This is where the Future Minerals Forum is in two parts. One is a ministerial roundtable, which takes place on the first of 3 days. And then day 2 and 3 are the conference, the conversation, the broader conversation. And this ministerial roundtable is really the driver of the whole discussion. It gives life to this notion of government-led or government leadership. We bring into the ministerial roundtable other stakeholders. We have multilateral organizations, NGOs, industry associations. So it's quite but very senior level. So ministerial, CEO. We are an event, I should say, that aims to bring together decision makers. We're not necessarily a technical conference in its traditional sense, but we are more in that leadership space where we bring the big, the ministers, the global CEOs of mining and investment companies, organizations, and others, to really try and tackle these issues and come up with some practical solutions. So the ministerial roundtable really sets the scene for all this. And in 2023, it agreed for work to be done on 4 broad areas. One was the development of a regional critical minerals framework with international collaboration. And that aims to sort of determine how can these countries' governments work together? What are the key areas of potential collaboration? What are the key enablers of mineral value chain development, whether it be investment in exploration, investment in infrastructure, policy alignment, technology, innovation and deployment at scale. And the very important one is developing the future workforce of these industries. Let's not forget that with all the demand in minerals, one estimate is we'll need 500,000 more people in this sector. That's probably a conservative estimate globally.
Yeah.
So that's a huge opportunities for young folk listening to this, wanting to get into a very exciting industry and a very important point in history. So so we're looking at how we can bring countries, how we can develop a framework that zeroes in on these enablers and provide somewhat of a roadmap for how governments can work together. That's number one. Number two relates to sustainability, and this goes back to the role of sustainability in mineral supply. And what we're looking at here specifically is designing or defining, I should say, some expectations from the perspective of supply countries. So this is about moving from the notion of rule takers to somewhat closer to rule shapers as far as supply. And why is this important? Because sustainability is an important factor in decision making around investment. And so that's an important point. But we also need to consider sustainability within the historical context, the regional context, the developmental contexts that some of these countries find themselves in. So we are looking at, what is important, what are the priorities for these supplier countries, these emerging supplier countries as far as sustainability is concerned, and how can we ensure that those that set the rules or the standards, this is not about setting new standards, by the way, it's about trying to influence those standards and rebalance where necessary. So that's a really important conversation that's coming. So that's number two. Number three is all about capacity building. So we talk about mineral supply, mineral development, but what are the underpinnings? What are the key enablers of that mineral supply? Whether it be provision of talent, investment, technology, policy certainty, intelligence or insights into demand, and then the downstream, the circular economy, how we transition to those. So we are looking at creating, and we're making some progress here, creating a network of what we call centers of excellence, primarily in this super region, but with input from other parts of the world. So this is about bringing the best and brightest to help these regions develop those capabilities. Why not have a Silicon Valley in this part of the world, or a number of Silicon Valleys? That's the level of ambition here. But first, we want to connect these centers that may already exist in the region and in other parts of the world. So Latin America, with its long mining history, and also deployment of success in deploying new technologies, we'd be keen to talk to centers in Chile and other countries to be part of this effort. And number four, that was number three. Number four is about it relates to the development of green metals value chains enabled by new technologies and renewable energy. So as you can see, this package of activities is quite ambitious, but it aims to result in some practical action that can be delivered over time. So what we seek to do over the course of this year is identify a number of projects that could help unlock certain supply chains, whether it be mine development, whether it be infrastructure, and what have you, and so that everyone that participates can help us with co-creating this and see some results at the end of the day in terms of projects and access to funding. So we're quite ambitious there. And just to finalize, a final point on this, Petar, we've reached out following our last meeting in January. We reached out to all the participating countries, inviting them to be involved in coordination groups. We've received more than 30 responses so far. So we're quite proud of that, because it means that over the next number of months, we're going to have governments sitting around, online initially, but ultimately sitting around a table and talking about these things and how we can develop frameworks, draft, define sustainability expectations, create these centers of excellence to build capacity and start the creation of or enable the creation of these value chains. So that in itself will be generating more interest and ideally from newer regions as they seek to be part of the story.
Absolutely, I agree. And let's focus a little bit on sustainability, circular economy, which is the main interest of our listeners and viewers. As you may know, Latin America, the mining industry in our region is really into sustainability, really into circular economy, not just as an idea, but as an actual business model. We have great business cases that we've presented here at Revolución Circular with huge mining companies that are promoting and developing these new sustainable business models. How does the Future Minerals Forum integrate sustainability, circular economy, or how are you planning to integrate it in the future forums that you will be having in the following years into its objectives? And now that you mentioned green metals, that is also super important for us, how are you using or leveraging new technologies and renewable energy to create these green metals hubs in the region, in the super region?
So the areas of work that I've just mentioned have sustainability woven throughout. Whether we're talking about international framework creation, there's a sustainability pillar to that. Similarly, the centers of excellence work that I've mentioned, there are 8 pillars that will underpin the work of these centers. One of those is sustainability. So we're going to try and bring together institutions, countries, to look at what best practice looks like around sustainability, and most importantly, the lifting of performance and the deployment of those practices across it. So these super regions. So there's that integrative piece there. As far as the conference program is concerned, sustainability is at its heart. We started in 2022 with talking about the key sustainability challenges, whether it be on the environmental side, particularly the social side, which is so challenging to address, quantify, and so forth. But also to bring into the conversation, as we were talking earlier, around the kingdom's mining law and the importance that they're placing on sustainability. What new dynamic could that help generate as the kingdom goes outside its own borders to seek supply and also invest in other countries? Those are the standards that they'll be looking to abide by. So looking ahead, the other thing I should say is the evolution of this future minerals program follows the value chain, has followed the value chain. So we started a couple of years, or 3 years, almost 4 ago, talking about the upstream, bringing the need to invest in exploration and mine development. In the course of that time, we've transitioned to processing. We still talk about the upstream, but we now transition to the midstream. From 2025 and onwards, we'll keep going further down the value chain to manufacturing. How do we enable that manufacturing capability in this region, but also as we go further down to the circular economy, so recycling and circular economy. This is not a tidy sequence. These things happening in multiple ways, but we are going to infuse the program as actually from 2025 with those conversations. So this is where the juncture of innovation, mineral development, and that recycling circular economy piece come together. It's going to be a fascinating. So one of the things, one messages I want to give you is that we are crafting a story here. There's a logic to what we're doing, and hopefully that comes through. And that logic I would articulate as follows. The Future Minerals Forum is more than an event. It has become somewhat of a concept. And our strategy, our vision, we have articulated our vision of shaping the future of minerals, but we base our strategy on 5 pillars. One is leadership, and this is where the ministerial roundtable comes in. Governments leading in collaboration with others, setting the agenda. Engagement. This is the conference element, where we bring all the key stakeholders and leaders to flesh out these issues that the governments have been grappling with and bring new ones into the conversation. So there's a regenerative element to all of this. So it's engagement. Number 3 is impact. And that's what these initiatives that I've been talking about are why they're so important, because if people feel that they're part of developing or crafting some action, that will generate more momentum, more interest, and more commitment. The 4th one is influence, and this is where in time we're hoping to take the future minerals conversations to other parts of the world. For example, the United Nations or COP, the G20, as well as having smaller versions of FMF, maybe some workshops in the region, Latin America, and other places. And number 5 is we will seek to inform. And one of the things we're looking at there is developing a report on an annual basis that brings together all the key themes that are covered at FMF and develop somewhat of a tracker of progress over time, covering maybe the super region initially, which is sort of the intention, but supply countries, regions more broadly in time. So as you can see, there's a structured approach, and that's reflected in our programming. Our central theme for 2025 will be Year of Impact. We've had the discussion in the first couple of years. We've delved deeper into them. We've started to take action. Now let's see what positive impact those actions could have. And the more involvement from people such as yourselves, leaders in your audience, governments, the better.
Absolutely love the idea that you're writing an idea, you're writing a story, and you can feel it at the moment you are participating at the Future Minerals Forum, you can see that so in line with the Vision 2030 of the kingdom, and that's something that I have no doubt that we can learn so much from. Speaking about the people in Latin America, there's so many opportunities to see and to learn at FMF 2025. And I want to speak about that. The new version, the theme, as you mentioned, is delivering impact, the FMF 2025. What specific challenges and opportunities will this theme address? How are you seeing this next Future Minerals Forum 2025?
So some of the themes that we've been discussing so far arising from the governmental, the ministerial discussion, and others will be covered. In particular, we're looking at the issue of value addition. So this refers to investing in minerals processing, manufacturing. So what value could be added to the mined product, and how much of that could be done within countries, specific countries' borders. So that's the hot topic at the moment. Countries with mineral endowment would like to have full value chains within their borders. We want to have a conversation about how achievable that is, and whether there are other ways of looking at this issue of value addition. We'll be looking at things such as intra-regional value chains, where groups of countries could benefit from value chain creation or investments in mining and processing infrastructure and other elements of the ecosystem. So groups of countries benefit, and in a way that's commercially viable. We'll also be looking specifically at issues such as unlocking investment in exploration, infrastructure, and mining in particular. That's been a big challenge. The finance world has sort of kept slightly back from investing in minerals for some time. That's changing, but the quantities required are vast, and so we need to mobilize that capital. Technology is fundamental, and particularly deployment of new technologies at scale in these new geographies. So if we could achieve some leapfrogging to enable some of these countries to achieve great, creating the creation of the sort of leading edge industries, why not? Saudi Arabia could be an example of that. And we have others that are ambitious. And then this whole capacity, back to this capacity building. So we're being very practical. What are the key things we need to do to enable these investments to happen? And so one way I would describe the Future Minerals Forum in 2025 is a big workshop where leaders come together to think hard, and the format where the design of the conversations and the formats are such that will enable that type of action focused conversation.
Great. I'm absolutely certain that it will be a huge event, and I was thinking about this, that I mentioned that when I was there. I know, and everybody knows, that Saudi Arabia likes and loves to think big. And maybe we haven't mentioned the numbers we're managing here. I mean, the amount of attendees, the level of the attendees, and I also wanted to ask you if you could share some key achievements and milestones of the FMF since its inception, but also mentioning the number of people that we are managing here.
Yeah, the numbers are quite interesting. So I'll just rattle through a few for you and the audience better. If we start with let's say the ministerial roundtable, we doubled the number of governments in the space of 3 years. We've doubled the number of governments that attend, from 32 to about 75. That's a big number. We've doubled the number of speakers in our conference from about 130 odd to more than 250. We've had to cap it because we just can't fit anymore. We started in 2022 with 5 global CEOs attending the Future Minerals Forum. This year was 45. Now, mining is not a big community, so 45 global CEOs, that's kind of saying something. We trebled the number of exhibitors and sponsors, and we tripled the number of attendees. We went from about 3,700 in 2022 to more than 14,000 this year. Another interesting number is more than 90% of our plenary speakers are CEOs, and more than 75% of overall speakers are CEOs. So this is a leaders forum. In terms of sort of other, sort of achievements that have emerged as a result of Future Minerals Forum, the formation of Manara, which is the investment vehicle created between the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia and the Ma'aden, the Saudi Arabian mining company, to invest in minerals outside the kingdom. That was announced, that was generated at the Future Minerals Forum. The creation of the Mineral Innovation and Acceleration Park. This is a center of excellence, or phase one of the creation of centers of excellence in the region, and it's a specific outcome from one of these initiatives that we've been talking about. So this is going to be a center in one of the universities of the City for Science and Technology in Riyadh that will be accessible to the rest of the region, will be linked up to the rest of the region, focusing on initially on technology and innovation, so incubation and acceleration, as well as talent development. So this is already happening. I made mention earlier of some 75 agreements being signed at the Future Minerals Forum. So it's a place to come and do business. On the one hand, it's emerging as a place where things happen or are made to happen, and also where governments and business in particular can come and do business. $20 billion worth of announcements were made. And I mentioned earlier as well the announcement of an update of Saudi Arabia's own mineral resource endowment to $2.5 trillion. So we're generating a lot of activity resulting in concrete action. And in 2025, I'm confident we'll have more to say.
Amazing. And as I said earlier, it's a fresh way to talk about the mining industry. I mean, there are so many events on mining and the importance of critical minerals, but to be part of what's going on in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia with FMF, it gives you a different perspective, and that's why it's so important for people that are listening and viewing our podcast to try to participate at the new version in 2025. Aldo, what is your long-term vision for the Future Minerals Forum, and how do you see it shaping the global conversation of mineral supply?
So I mentioned earlier these five pillars. That's our long-term strategic plan. We want to, when we look at the leadership pillar, we want to ensure that the governments are having conversations that are relevant to and leading the industry, whether it's value addition. That's going to be the central theme in for the ministerial roundtable in 2025. So out of that ministerial roundtable, you have a work program that's forward-looking. It will inform the conference itself. So over the next 2, 3, 4 years, we're going to see the results of all that work. The conference itself, as I mentioned earlier, will evolve and look further down the value chain. So we'll bring in the manufacturers, the recyclers, the circular economy experts. So we're evolving along with the relevant the key issues. I talked about impact before. So over the next number of years, we hope that these initiatives will crystallize. You will see somewhat of an international or regional framework. So governments working together to plan corridors and investment in specific projects. The centers of excellence will be starting to appear, and hopefully would have influenced the conversation around sustainability. And how we can rebalance that somewhat so that these regions can attract the investment they need, but whilst embarking on a journey towards good, responsible, performance. One of the areas that's going to be really interesting to watch over the next few years, Petar, is the influencing bit where we go to other fora. So whether it be the COP meetings, this is all about putting minerals on the global agenda.
Yeah.
We're hoping to influence the G20 to put minerals on the agenda for the first time. So we're involved in those discussions. As I said earlier, we will be looking to engage with other regions, so have workshops in Latin America and other places on these issues, and bringing the South American or Latin American perspective to these discussions, and then bring all that back to Riyadh for further conversation. And then the inform piece, as I mentioned earlier. By bringing all this together, we feel our hope is that we can start to shape sentiment around minerals. That's a very big ask, but by changing the conversations, by doing and showing the good that these industries can do at this pivotal point in history, we hope that that message will get across to others in society, and thereby over time build that all-important trust that's needed in order to obtain social license to deliver these investments and projects. So that's the long-term view.
What message would you like to share with our followers in Latin America and around the world about the Future Minerals Forum and Saudi Arabia? Please, the microphone is open. Invite all the people. We want to see a lot of Latin Americans participating and learning and sharing our experience in this important industry for the future of our planet.
I think the key message is join the conversation. Latin America and South America has a lot to offer this discussion. Your history, your expertise, the sophistication of your industries are valuable and will be in demand in places, other parts of the world that are emerging. So be part of the conversation. This region, Saudi Arabia, an opportunity to explore new markets and business growth opportunities. I talked about governments. This is an opportunity for South American and Latin American companies and governments themselves to be part of, to engage other governments, engage industry. This is a meeting place. It's the United Nations of minerals. And rightly so, because it's it's in a fundamentally central part of the world. Bring your expertise and know-how. You'll be welcomed. That is sought. And also develop the relationships that will enable an increase in two-way trade and hopefully investments in South America. We are talking about a region that has 5 of the world's leading sovereign wealth funds. If you talk about the Gulf region, so there's a pool of capital, and also importantly, just to underline, company influence, a very important discussion, and hopefully we can come back and return the favor by having more conversations in South America itself.
That's a beautiful way to put it. The United Nations of critical minerals. And I totally agree that if you go there to Saudi Arabia, to Riyadh, to the Future Minerals Forum, you will feel so welcome. It's such a beautiful place, such a beautiful city, great people, kind people, and a place that blends perfectly the past, the present, and the future. Aldo, where can our viewers and listeners learn more about the Future Minerals Forum 2025 and stay updated to its latest developments?
Absolutely. So we have a website, which is www.futuremineralsforum.com. You can go there now. It's been updated, so there'll be more information, nicely presented, even better than now. There's a wealth of content in there that you'll be able to find out about our programming, our content development, and you can also go back historically to our previous events and look at all the videos from those forums. So we'd be delighted to have more South Americans, Latin Americans join us.
Absolutely, and
sería un placer tenerlos con nosotros en enero de 2025.
That's something That's something that we didn't mention, Aldo, that you have yourself a Latin American background from lovely Uruguay. Maybe next time we will make this in Spanish, but I have no doubt that this is the first of several conversations we will have in the future. I want to thank you for joining us, for giving us all this time, and for inviting people from our region to this important event in Saudi Arabia. So, Aldo, thank you very much for joining us at Revolución Circular, the Circular Revolution, for this inaugural episode in English that will be the first of several, and hope to see you really, really soon.
The pleasure is all mine, Petar, and thank you so much to you and your audience for the opportunity. I hope to see you again.
Thank you very much, Aldo. And thank you all for joining us. And remember, I'll be here next week with another great example of the circular economy and the fourth industrial revolution. Take care.